to the mothers, the mamas, the aunties, the abuelas, the grandmothers, the tias. If you are one of those, or if you are the product of one of those, happy Mother's Day. It's a pleasure to be in the space with y'all again. And we will call to order this monthly business meeting for May 2024 of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. As always, I am honored to serve as chair, Dr. David Falconer, if you don't know at this point. And let's move on with our attendance. So I will just run through the list here, acknowledge people as I see them. So acknowledging our vice chair, Charles Chavis. Good to see you, brother. Hope all is well. Acknowledging Commissioner Millen. Good morning. Commissioner Snowden. Good morning. Commissioner Haley. Good morning. Commissioner Hughes. Good morning. Commissioner Baker. Good morning. Commissioner Armenti. Good morning. Commissioner Coles. Good morning. Commissioner Creary. Good morning. Commissioner Barrett. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Commissioner Seward, I believe that's you. Good morning. Commissioner Dupree Wilson. Good morning. Who is the unknown, if I may ask? We have somebody listed as unknown, and I don't want to exclude anyone. If I forget, so whoever unknown is, let us know. And if you're a commissioner, I will acknowledge you. But nevertheless, greetings. Thank you all for being here. We will move on with our agenda. Approval of, actually, we did not send out the business meeting minutes, I don't think. So we will table that for now.
Okay.
Yeah, we will table the minutes for now. But we do have the recording, so there's that. But once the minutes are sent out, we'll officially approve them. So we'll table that for right now. Moving on to my comments as chair and the soul check. Well, I said Happy Mother's Day. That was my main thing for my comments. But we did have, since the last time we connected, we did have our hearing in Frederick County. Thank you to those who attended in person. Thank you to those who attended virtually. Certainly speaking for myself, I thought it was wonderful. Yeah, we had that awkward moment. Okay, fair enough. But the totality of the hearing, I thought, was well done. It was by far the most attended hearing that we've had so far. I think the energy was strong. Obviously, having the descendants, so many descendants of the victims, was huge, and they spoke their truth. And as I've said before, if we do nothing else with these hearings, if we give space for the descendants to speak their truth, then we've done our thing. And I thought that was very prominent during the hearing. So thank you to everyone who helps to put all that together. So shout out Trish, shout out Sophie, shout out Kristen, everyone in the back, of course the commissioners as well. This is how we declare ourselves to the people. I know we have our business meetings, and yes, they're open to the public, but it's really the hearings that we know will get attention. And I think we definitely did our thing, and I look forward to continuing to build on that momentum for the subsequent hearings that we will do. So with that, I will be quiet, and I want to make space for any thoughts and feelings that commissioners want to share at this time. Yes, Commissioner Baker, I see your hand.
Hi, thank you. This was my first hearing, so I would just love a little bit of context on how all that magic happened. I've heard from a couple people on the commission that it's really the work of our support staff, but as a commissioner, I showed up and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a huge production. I didn't know any of all the background that was happening, and I want to make sure I thank the right people.
No, absolutely. So certainly, again, our support staff, Trish, Sophie, all the representatives from OAG, Kristen, Zanita, but those that we've been able to bring in, especially with the production. So huge shout out to Event Stream team. They are the ones that made it available virtually. They do excellent work. They've been a part of previous hearings, so much love to them. A lot of love to the local coalitions that really were instrumental in making sure we chose the right place to have the hearing. So that's what we mean by the collaboration with those on the ground in the different jurisdictions. So I learned that, and people learned that day that was the first school in Frederick County that was open to Black students, right? That's significance, right? That's intentionality around place. And so all of that is certainly due to the relationships we've been able to cultivate with local coalitions. I'm sure I'm missing people, but I mean certainly all the commissioners that are on the logistics committee in particular. So it is a production, right? And again, the hearings are those many culminations of the work that we do in the background. So if it comes off well, it's definitely because of all the hard work that is put in place beforehand, going to the site, making sure you can get in the door, making sure there's enough seats, making sure that the view for those online is a clear view, and there's still things that we want to work on. So moving forward, we hope that those commissioners who are not able to attend in person for various reasons can be active in the hearings as well. That's something that I discussed with the event stream team. So we'll make sure that can happen moving forward. But it's definitely a work in progress. I'm thinking about the very first one we did back in Allegheny County, right? The hybrid one, right? To what we've been able to put together now. It's an iterative process, and we continue to take away those critical lessons from each hearing. And yeah, for as much preparation as there can be, you don't know until you get into the space, right? We know that it's a very emotional space that we are cultivating every time we do this. And there are things that have to be navigated in the moment. Frederick County was a great example, as y'all saw. But it's ultimately about keeping everyone on track and focus on what is the critical element of the hearing, which again is making space for the descendants to tell their story. And that part, I think, resonated strongest out of that. So I'm very grateful for how it turned out.
And Chair, if I may, I would only add in the American Sign Language and also the social workers
Yes.
that we had present that day. They were definitely a really great asset to have for that event as well.
Absolutely. And right on cue, I saw that Dr. Combs joined us. Greetings, Dr. Combs, and much love to Living and Growing for being in the space. That part is critical. They followed up with me and said that there were some people that utilize their services, and that's great. We want to continue to find ways to further integrate them into our hearings, because we know that this is an emotional space that we are creating. So we want those constant opportunities for people to be, grounded, refocused, reoriented, but also have the space to navigate the valid feelings that they are all experiencing in that time. So again, much appreciation, much gratitude to, yes, our language interpreters, as well as to Living and Growing. It's a whole village, right? It's a whole village that puts this together. So, and all of it is important. So absolute gratitude and appreciation. Any other thoughts from commissioners before we move on? All right, hearing none, seeing none, then we will move on to our public comments. So as always, to members of the public, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Reverend Tykert, for introducing yourself already. That's what we asked. Please give your name, your affiliation, if you so choose. And as always, we can't do this without the people, and we don't want to do this without the people. So thank you for being in the space with us. Thank you for holding us accountable. Thank you for guiding us in this critical work. Moving on with our agenda, we go to committee reports. So to committee chairs, if there are any updates that need to be shared at this time, please feel free.
I guess I'll jump in with the logistics report. The logistics committee met on the Monday after, or a week after the hearing on April 22nd, and we reviewed from a logistics perspective the Frederick County hearing. We focused on areas or aspects of the hearing process that were successful, as well as those lessons that we learned that we can carry forward, and future hearings and counties can benefit from those lessons learned. 11 counties still require the commission to host or co-host Truth and Reconciliation hearings. And we're considering grouping those into 6 potential hearings. So some as single, some as bi, or some as tri-county hearings. And I think I can hold further details for later on in the agenda when we bring this back up. And we're looking forward to hearing back from some of the commissioner liaisons that I have not heard from. So Hartford, Cecil, Montgomery, and Carroll and Howard counties. And our next meeting for logistics committee is May 20th.
All right, thank you for that, Commissioner Millen. Absolutely, definitely want to reiterate for county liaisons, please connect with Commissioner Millen as we look to schedule these hearings. We want to be mindful of time because we don't have all the time in the world left, and we want to make sure we give ample space, just like we did with Frederick, to each location where we have to still do a hearing, as well as our final hearing, which would be around the institutions that have been complicit in this in racial terror lynchings historically, as well as an intentional focus on reconciliation and justice. So we do have to plan accordingly, and we want to be mindful of time. So any updates, even if the update is there has been no communication with local coalitions, just let us know so that we can, again, figure out the schedule as best we can. So thank you for that, Commissioner Millen. Commissioner Armenti, I saw your hand.
Yes. So coming out of the research committee, we did have the opportunity to have our open meeting on Monday, May 6th. So last Monday, a decent chunk of that time went toward strategizing follow-up related to the Frederick County hearing. And I think this is something that is worth emphasizing for all around the hearing process as well, is that once it occurs, that does not mean that the work with that particular community or history is done. So we know that, for example, as Chair Fakunle has emphasized, the descendant participation was robust, but at the same time, we have significant work to do in terms of coordinating with those individuals, gaining as much information as we can to add to the stories of the victims, as well as that legacy and that impact, intergenerational impact that we see, reflected in the hearing. So just stating again that coordinating with the descendants and verifying information and updating those case studies through our website will be a distinct follow-up step, and something that we've acknowledged and recognized in working with descendant communities is making sure that, not only they have that space within the hearing for the testimony, but that in any subsequent communication, they feel supported and know that it's coming from an official place in terms of the commission. So with that, that a commissioner or even the chair in some cases will be utilized for that outreach, as opposed to just support staff. So I'll be working within the committee, as well as with our support staff to coordinate some of those steps. Something else, so other aspects that were discussed at the research committee meeting is alignment, again, with the logistics committee and some of what Commissioner Millen has laid out, as far as prioritizing certain counties, prioritizing bundles of counties in some cases, and making sure that we have the most up-to-date information going into those planning conversations, up-to-date research information, for example, and as well using those meetings as an opportunity to identify gaps that we as a commission need to help fill, in order to tell the truest and most fullest story possible. So thanks to the logistics committee for highlighting those needs. And again, we'll we'll work with contracted staff to make sure they have what they need going into some of those planning meetings. Again, I believe some of those are happening this week as well as next week. So that's a priority right now as well. I will also relay that via Commissioner Snowden, we were alerted to contact with a possible descendant of a as of yet unknown lynching victim in Queen Anne's County. So there's certainly more investigation needed. I don't want to go too far forward in stating anything about that, but merely to relay that sometimes communication comes into the commission directly. Sometimes it comes to individual commissioners, especially if we are, as many of us are, out in the community and, you know, as visible representatives of the commission work. So as Commissioner Snowden did, if there are individuals that contact you as possible descendants or as having information or source material to support existing case studies, please do relay that through the research committee, potentially also through the reconciliation committee and the leadership committee, because it's good for all of us to know how we are being communicated to, and you know, whether there are potential individuals that we need to bring in for, you know, more in-depth discussion about what they can reveal. So there will be follow-up on that lead as well. So I believe that is most of what I have in terms of committee updates. But I would welcome anybody else who was there on May 6th if I'm missing something to fill in.
Thank you.
And as of right now, we do have monthly meetings set. So tentatively, the next research committee meeting would be Monday, June 3rd. However, I need to look at my personal availability and work with my fellow commissioners, but so that will be confirmed in the near future, but that's not as yet officially on the website, because we have to make sure that we can staff that meeting. So there will be follow-up in that regard too from our committee. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Commissioner Armenti. Any other details that people want to add in regards to research from that meeting? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Yes.
So yeah, I was
Okay.
just, I guess
Yeah, go ahead.
that leaves reconciliation, and we met on Friday, May 3rd. Our standing meeting is usually the first Friday of the month at 3:30 Eastern time, which means our next meeting will be Friday, June 7th, if I'm not mistaken. But we did meet. We had updated information from Professor Gowerk at Loyola. She and her students have almost completed their work of, you know, checking the transcripts of the first 5 hearings as well as coding them. We are, you know, we've gotten the transcript of the Frederick hearing, and I'll be getting that to her so her students, she and her students can work that one as well. Let's see what else we've got. So we've gotten that transcription back from Frederick. Looking at, you know, interns, Commissioner Coles got us a couple of interns, I believe, from the University of Baltimore Law School. So we also discussed some possible projects that the interns could be working on, particularly helping to shape the reconciliation hearing that we've been discussing as well. But looking, you know, specifically at, you know, the issues of, you know, media and law enforcement and sort of their roles in, you know, in creating the environment and also participating in the racial terror lynchings. Another possible, thing for the interns to do would be to start developing a list of resources. Commissioner Coles, had identified a couple of, excellent books, that will be helpful, for our work as we're moving forward, looking at potential recommendations for reparations, including some work by Pauli Murray, States Laws on Race and Color, as well as William Darity's Black Reparations Project book. Yeah, we sort of had a brief discussion about, trying to, shape the framework of the final report, looking at, the first part, looking at the truth, where we would want to highlight the work of the research committee, as well as the information that's come from the hearings. The second part, looking at reconciliation, looking at recommendations coming out of the research, and then started, kicking around ideas, for different modes, sort of, yes, we want to put together sort of a traditional technical report as well, which will hopefully also be, housed on the archives website. But then we also talked about other things like, could we do things like with graphic novels or graphic narratives, develop an interactive digital report so that people aren't just reading. We want to try to make this more accessible to the public as well. In terms of looking at the scope of, the work for the person that writes this, we were looking at, and, the idea of coming up with funding for a sabbatical for, say, one of the historians at one of the HBCUs, to write, would it be possible to get BJA funds to provide that sabbaticals, because we were thinking, yes, ideally, it would be great if someone from the commission could write it. Again, we know the work best. But again, we all have day jobs. So one of the possible ways around that would be, to get somebody, to buy out a couple of classes, because we know HBCUs have that crushing teaching load, oftentimes 4-4, 5-4 sometimes. If we could buy that time back to free up commissioners to engage in that writing, that might be an idea to explore. And if we're going to do it, we're going to need to explore it fairly soon. And so yeah. Couple other ideas, for the interns, looking at state legislation and countywide laws or ordinances that could be changed or removed, as a possible, potential recommendation. Also thinking of, state projects that will impact Black Marylanders disproportionately. For example, funding or construction of the new jail in Baltimore City, or the new training facility that will be built at or near Coppin State University. But, again, just sort of finding ways. I mean, there are more than ample things that, we can have interns working on. As I said, I mean, we can pretty much make these things full-time jobs for folks. So, yeah, those are just some of the things that we discussed. And as I said, our next meeting will be scheduled for Friday, June 7th, 3:30. And I'm happy to take questions, comments, and/or criticisms.
Thank you, Commissioner Query. Commissioner Davidson, I see your hand.
Yes, for Commissioner Query. When you were talking about having a faculty from HBCUs helping, I just want to bring up Karen Cook Bell, who you know well, has a W.B. Du Bois Center for the study of Black experience, and she's trying to do micro histories on Maryland. So she has some things brewing. I don't know if you contact her with regard to that. And then there is David Terry at Morgan State. He has graduate students. He's a prolific writer, a hell of a scholar. And so, you could, reach out to them. Because those are two people I know can get the job done.
No, definitely. I know, Dr. Cook Bell, yes, she is prolific.
Yes.
And incredibly
Just
extreme,
put out another book.
which does not surprise me at all. But yeah, definitely I can reach out to them to see if they'd be interested in doing, taking that on. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the references, and I will definitely follow up.
No, thank you. Will, I'll see you hand. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt the flow here, but if we're looking for opportunities to employ these interns in a productive way, I would, again, in the past we've raised the idea of producing summaries of the hearings that have already happened, so people know what's going on, and it'll help not only attract people to subsequent hearings, but it's an important part of building a record that you're going to need to build anyway. And I think it would be a service to this, to the public, to be able to say, here's what happened, here's who showed up, here are the points they made, here are the problems they identified, here are the solutions they offered. They don't need to be terribly long, but I think enough to give people an idea of what these things are all about.
No, thank you for that, Will. And I certainly support that, and certainly support a creative way by which we can do it. So I would love for us to not be the commission that gives people a bunch of things to read, because most of us read enough for our jobs. I'm still waiting to read for pleasure. I'm not there yet. So yeah. I appreciate things around engagement. And Will, you're cinematographer, right? You understand bringing people into the story. So obviously we don't have to decide this now, but I'm just going to continue to uplift the ways that we can make this story relevant for the people. So the graphic novel, Nick, as you brought up, yes, anything that's going to help people to kind of see themselves within this story is greatly appreciated, not just for the service of this commission, but hopefully to set precedent for how this type of information can be disseminated. We do have, I think, that opportunity at our disposal. So I don't want us to lose it, or to not utilize it to the best of our abilities, but absolutely ways to summarize, as you said, Will, the individual hearings, and to start to build those common denominators that are showing up across the hearings that we've had so far is critical to our work. So thank you all for uplifting that. Anything else for reconciliation and justice? The one thing that I will say, Nick, and particularly to Commissioner Coles as well, I did have the chance to connect with someone coming out of the Frederick hearing. Her name is Stephanie Thompson. She is a lawyer by trade, and she is very much interested in lending her support and services, not just of her, but of her firm, to the work of the commission. She has done work in Frederick, particularly around American descendants of slavery, and looking to get reparations for that circumstance. And after meeting with Stephanie, I think there's certainly opportunity for going as deep as we need to go when it comes to how reconciliation and justice can look for the victims and descendants of racial terror lynching. So I'll just uplift that. I will make sure to make that connection to you both, Nick and Michelle, and hopefully something good comes of it. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. That would be absolutely wonderful.
No doubt. Happy to do it. All right. If we're good with committee reports, then we will move on to any engagement updates with counties and regions.
Sheriff Akunle, would you like me to report on that? Whatever
Sure.
I have.
Yeah.
Currently, Commissioner Coles is really leading a wonderful tri-county effort and for St. Mary's and Calvert, with Charles being part of that conversation as a neighboring county, even though they did not have any known lynchings. So that first planning meeting will be held next week, next Thursday. And other commissioners working in that Tri-County area are Commissioner Davidson and Commissioner Fakunle. So it'll be really good. In another month, we'll have a much clearer update and idea of what their time frame is. We're targeting potentially early November for a hearing, but that is a soft target right now. I just want to emphasize nothing has been confirmed. Myself and Lindsay Baker, and I guess Commissioner Baker, and then Commissioner Barrett, we'll talk offline if you're still connected into PG County. We have a meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. With the leadership of PG County, including Reverend Tykert, who is on the call today. So we're really excited to have that initial conversation and begin to work towards a hearing date with them as well and answer all the questions. Commissioner Hughes has been in conversation with Kent, Queen Anne's, and Caroline counties individually. And these are just initial conversations to jumpstart it. Commissioner Hughes is not the liaison. There is no commissioner liaison for those three counties, but it was just to begin a more formalized conversation. If possible, I think it'd be great to have them as those three counties have a single hearing together. But that again is, a conversation with the community. And so we're not quite there yet.
Very, very quickly, Commissioner Millen, what were those three counties that you mentioned?
Yeah, sorry, Kent, Queen Anne's, and Caroline counties.
Okay, that's what I thought, and thank you for that. I spoke with them, spoke with the, let me get the name. I'm sorry. I should have been more prepared for this. Philip Dutton.
Yep.
And yeah. So we were having those conversations after they had a soil collection ceremony, which was wonderful. And I had the chance to attend on behalf of the commission and raise the possibility of being in Chestertown specifically to have a hearing session that kind of coalesced those surrounding counties. So happy to be a part of that conversation as well, because I was in communication with Philip Dutton. There was another gentleman that I was in contact with, Larry Wilson. So those were the two main contacts that I was speaking with about a potential tri-county hearing in Chestertown. So whenever that conversation wants to get going again, just let me know, and I'm happy to be a part of it as well.
Perfect. You just volunteered yourself, even as chair, to help out.
I did, I guess, yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And then Hartford, I mentioned earlier, Hartford and Cecil, I'm really waiting to hear back from Commissioner Barnes to see, I don't know if she's online today. So we really need to, I think they've been ready, and I would love to get them scheduled. Montgomery County with Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Dupree Wilson. And then the last one, potentially Carroll and Howard counties combined. Again, this is without a conversation with each of those counties. We really need to hear from them as well, if that's comfortable, with Commissioners Armenti and Creary. So I think that's the 11 counties, and, potentially in 6 hearings. And every commissioner has been contacted, and I'm just waiting to get confirmation to move it forward, with the goal to have all the hearings completed by the first half of December of this year, so that we can switch into the more subject-based hearings that Commissioner Creary identified, and then move forward with writing the report. So it's a lot, but it's doable. We've just all hands on deck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Millen. I didn't get a chance to respond to your email that you sent this morning, but certainly understand the goal of getting it done by first half of December. And, as I kind of mentioned, and I will say, forgive me if I'm not giving enough time for the final report. In my mind, 6 months seems like enough time, but if it's not, then All right. So Nick, you're shaking your head. Okay. So that's what I wanted to. I think it's good for us to have a good framework of how much time that piece will take, because essentially our effective end date is the end of December 2025. The first half of 2026, we just want to focus on advocacy, right? So we're just telling the story as many places as we can. So because you shake your head, Nick, give me your thoughts on what's a reasonable time to put all this together in the final report.
Absolutely no. Every commission that I've looked at thus far has said they've needed at least a year, or they should have taken at least a year. They did not give themselves enough time to get it done, and so yes, they found themselves rushing to get it done by the stated deadline. So I would like to think that we would be able to sort of have the year of 2025. Now I realize that's going to mean we're going to need to start ramping up. As I've been saying, we need to start looking at what we've already got and start building out this framework, so that, and figuring out, and again, just thinking about the procurement process, we're going to need to come up with basically a job description, so that we can start that process, because it's going to take a few months, and I'd like to have somebody in place so that ideally before all of the hearings are done, we can get somebody online who can kind of start going through the data that we've been collecting and start filling in some of that framework. So yeah, I'd like to have as much time as we can get for this. So yeah, 6 months I think is idealistic, but yeah, we're gonna need as much time as we can get on this.
Gotcha. No, that's important to know. Thank you for that, Nick. Commissioner Armenti, I see you.
Just wanted to add, and Amy, I can connect offline with some more about this update. But in thinking about the kind of Upper Eastern Shore consortium of counties, I know that there had not been like a formal local coalition per se, although there are multiple individuals, right, who we know are active there. Wanted to lift up the name of Eleanor Thompson again as well, who is, and even more broadly, the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture for the state. I know that Commissioner Davis has been a bridge to that commission at times, and several of us work with some of them on a regular basis. But Ms. Thompson is a commissioner, so she has roots in the community in Queen Anne's County in particular, and has already kind of done some legwork around particularly small religious congregations and the records and the community memory that they have. So I will, like I said, I'll forward kind of my latest update in conversation with her, but also just kind of add her name to the list of individuals that, as we're getting off the ground, to at minimum be aware of, if not kind of fold in more formally.
Yep, we have her on our abbreviated notes, thanks to you as well as Commissioner Hughes' work. So it's great.
Great.
All right, awesome. Thank you all for that. Much appreciated. All right, if there's nothing else for engagement updates, then we'll move on to new business, starting with updates from the debrief of our last hearing session in Frederick County. So I believe I missed that meeting. I think I did. I'm sorry if I did. So any updates from the debrief that we want to share out with everyone? Any teachable moments?
Yeah, I didn't pull up my notes, so I apologize.
It's all good.
I'm still basking in the glow.
Okay, we still feel good about it. All right, good. I'm glad. I mean, in terms of my debriefing, I kind of said it already. I thought it went very, very well. Again, looking at the totality of hearing sessions that we've done so far, that's certainly one of the best in terms of attendance. I think in terms of, I guess, engagement with the descendants and just having that platform for them to share. I think all things considered, and y'all know what I mean by the all things considered, it went smooth, right? We weren't too overtime. I noticed that we went a little bit longer than we scheduled, but I think many people stayed way past the scheduled end of the session. So I think that was very good to see. Again, just the interest in what was happening. And again, from a logistics standpoint, like I said, the number one thing that I take away is just making sure that commissioners who can attend in person are able to participate, right? So being able to ask questions, to be an active part of the procedure of the hearing, there's the possibility of that being an occurrence moving forward. So that's the one real teachable moment I take away from it, is just to make sure that we're all represented either in person or virtually. But I certainly want to make space for other thoughts. So Commissioner Coles, I'll start with you.
Hi. I just wanted to say, I just thought it was spectacular and wonderful. I watched online and I thought the flow of the program, from having someone lay out a historical, educational PowerPoint presentation, was really good. And then having the descendants speak, the different community members speak. I thought people touched on so many different angles. And so it wasn't repetitive. You weren't hearing the same thing over and over. But you were just getting how different people were impacted by these events. And I just left the hearing just feeling very encouraged about the work that we were doing, and hopeful about the positive change that we're helping to bring about. So thank you to everyone who was involved in the planning and execution of that hearing. I sent it around. I sent the clip around far and wide, and I hope everyone does the same, because I just thought it was really just a really remarkable event to see and witness. So thank you, guys.
No, thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Folks really liked the space, and they really liked that there was enough parking, there was adequate parking, there was adequate space for seating. Another shout out to the coalition for being able to select such a historical space. And then also just being able to work in tandem with the team of Lincoln Elementary, like the actual staff, them getting there super early to let us in. Everybody just being flexible, them giving us an additional space where we were able to host folks who needed to take a moment with our social workers. So it was just a really great overall experience with working with them, and they seem very invested in wanting to host us for the benefit of the community.
No doubt. Here on that one for sure. Thank you for that, Trish. Any other thoughts?
Well, I think something I alluded to earlier, as far as the research is concerned, we did lean very heavily on a local scholar, and he did a wonderful job. And sometimes we get lucky in that respect, that there is an extremely knowledgeable on the ground person, but that's not always going to be the case. So for myself and for the committee, and for our contracted staff for research, it's going to take more of a time investment in some of our future hearings to make sure, for example, that those slides are always there, and giving that context. So while acknowledging the great work, again, it does highlight how sometimes we have that support, other times we may not, and it's really going to be more dependent on commissioners to make that happen. And likewise with descendant coordination that I alluded to earlier, that while the participation was wonderful, we did not have all the information, frankly, we should have had or needed ahead of the hearing to make sure that, we contextualized their testimony, and also had, in place what we need to provide updates for our case studies and such. So I agree it was a successful event, but I do just want to acknowledge how some of those greater time investments ahead are probably going to be necessary for both descendant and kind of scholarly, so to speak, representations of the history. But yes, we had the benefit of some great collaborators this time around.
Absolutely. And I'll come back to that very quickly, Commissioner Armenti, but I want to go to Commissioner Miller first. Go ahead, Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, thank you. I pulled up the notes from our logistics committee meeting, and most of the points have already been touched on. I think we could fine tune some of our timing a little bit more to try and stay in time or be aware of the number of known lynchings and what that means for the time frame. The other is, I think we've heard across several hearings that what descendants are looking to hear and balancing that with the planning committee. So and the importance of thinking about hearing from the elected officials or police or other sort of representative bodies that were likely responsible for the harm at the time of the lynching, even though. So just thinking about that a little bit more, we had several descendants this time ask, wondering where the comments were, where was the type of apology, for lack of a better word, from the chief of police, for example, or from the mayor, or from a county executive. So, that might be a case by case basis, but I certainly think we should really lean into that conversation as each hearing is being planned.
No, I appreciate that, Commissioner Millen, and certainly I give credit to I believe it was the mayor of Frederick that did attend the hearing, and certainly I look at what descendants were looking for in terms of an apology, an official acknowledgement of what happened as part of the recommendations. Certainly, if we can get it in the moment, I think that's great. But if nothing else, we certainly list it as, okay, here's what can be done in order to, facilitate healing, truth, reconciliation, all the things that we're looking for. But that point is taken. And, I think just like we get fortunate with the amount of history that we get from local historians or local researchers, we also get kind of fortunate with which elected officials will actually attend. We can't make them, but we certainly can invite them to be a part of it. And like I said, much credit to the mayor. He showed up and he stayed. I can give him credit for that, if nothing else. But the point is definitely understood. And I think that certainly finds itself in the low-hanging fruit of what we can do in terms of reconciliation and justice. Say you're sorry, right? That's what they actually want to hear, is you're sorry. And I think, yeah, as much as we can do that in the local jurisdictions, not just from the state, but in the places where it happened, we should absolutely push for that. So very understood. And coming back to you really quickly, Commissioner Armenti. So we know we have the contracted staff and contracted workers on our behalf when it comes to research and genealogy. So how, in your estimation, can commissioners best augment the work that they're doing?
That's a great question. And, I think part of it, and I'll get to your actual question, but I think part of it, the issue with Frederick as well, was that, we got contacted by individuals rather late in the process. So there wasn't, the time needed to get to know them, get some sense of their recommendations ahead of time, for example, as well as, having a better understanding of the genealogy and where they fit into the family story. That's just a function of how much time we have ahead of the hearings. So in this case, it was a little bit challenging for that reason. Mm-hmm. But as far as what commissioners can contribute to that process, coming to the monthly research committee meetings, we would then know, is there the necessity of having kind of parceling out commissioner time toward these descendant or community member conversations, so that, for example, not just one individual is carrying that burden, or we are not sending off our staff to represent the commission alone as well. I just don't think that's appropriate in most cases. So just having commissioners as either a lead or a co-lead on any kind of community or family member based conversation, I think would probably be best practice. And then also then on the backside, the work that has to go behind the scenes is, combing through those case study profiles of the victims, combing through the information that's currently online, whether through our page or others, to, verify that information. So going into the hearings, we're able to provide all the commissioners as up-to-date information as possible, and we are being accurate with what we are saying. So those are kind of some general recommendations, and again, working through the committee meetings to have those assignments would definitely make the process go more smoothly, I believe.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Miller, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you. Just to build on what Commissioner Armenti said, I would also say that jump-starting the PR push earlier alerts the communities even earlier. And my guess is that folks started hearing about this hearing and then were reaching out. And so certainly having a longer, and I do know that is the plan moving forward, at least I believe that's the plan moving forward, then these folks should be coming to us sooner, and we may have more time to, work in partnership with them to bring their story forward. So
makes sense, and great segue. Perfect segue. So certainly for the, let me see. I want to acknowledge what Reverend Teicher said. We appreciated that a dissenting local voice was allowed to speak, wish that commissioners were introduced, admire descendants' participation, excellent hospitable space, need reps from perpetrated public offices, making apologies, amends, etc. Absolutely. Well, certainly, as I told Nick in a moment, if I know who was coming up, I probably would have stopped it, but it happened. And yeah, as long as there's respect more than anything else, we're open to voices that may not be in perfect alignment, right? But it is all in how the message is delivered more than anything else. But nevertheless, we are grateful for people feeling comfortable to tell their story. That's critical, no matter what the story may be. So with that, transition to the next part of our new business. There will certainly be discussions that we have in closed session, as you all see on the agenda. But if the Hatcher Group just wants to do a quick introduction to the public and just kind of do an overview of how you'll be working with the commission, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that sounds great. Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Simpson. I am a director at the Hatcher Group, supporting clients in our education and equity and opportunity sectors. For those who don't know, the Hatcher Group is a full-service communications firm based here in Bethesda, Maryland. And we support clients across 4 main sector areas: environment, education, equity and opportunity, and public health. And we are working with the commission, as Commissioner Millens mentioned, to support your PR efforts in raising awareness for specific hearings and the work you all do. And so our scope of work includes strategic communications plans for each hearing, pitching ahead of each hearing, and serving as a liaison between commissioners and the media to schedule interviews and ensure media attendance and make sure reporters have the information they need at hearings, as well as providing promotional content like social media, and supporting you all in sort of op-ed placement and things like that. So happy to pause there, and I know there's closed session, but.
No, thank you for that, Devin. Any questions that people may have for Devin and the Hatcher Group? Any questions that can be asked in public in an open meeting? Okay, there we go. That's why we're specific. Okay, no, Will, I see your hand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks, David. So actually, I was wondering if there's a repository of all the minutes that have from the history of the almost 4-year history now of the commission. Is there one place that this can be found? I know some of them are linked on the homepage, but I think it would be helpful to have an address to go to where we can find minutes for since the beginning of the commission. Does that exist anywhere? Is there?
Hi, Will. As much as possible, we're gathering them all
Chris.
at this. Hi, sorry, I have my camera on.
No, good.
No, I have a stunning white shirt on. I need to have it on. No, we're trying to gather them all and keeping them with the archives. We just had a meeting just this week with our appraisal staff, and so we're going over the area where we have it. And a matter of fact, I wonder if I can share it. They're not all linkable right now, but from back to the beginning, 2019, all the way up to as recent as possible, we are gathering the minutes and we're putting them in there. Some of the minutes were, some of the issues is that some minutes were agendas to which minutes were subsequently added. So we went through a period of, well, do we consider that agendas only, or do we consider that minutes only? But yeah, we are gathering those all, and there is an actual record series that's been created too. So that's where people can go. And what we'll end up doing is probably linking that to the Maryland State, well, from the Maryland State Archives guide to the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Chris.
Certainly.
Okay. No, thank you for that, Chris. Thank you, Will, for your question. Any other questions for Hatcher Group? All right, seeing none, hearing none, then we will see them in closed session. Thank you, Devin, again for being here. So the next thing on our new business was timeline for hearings, which we kind of already talked about in the midst of our existing conversations. So I think we have an understanding that we want to aim for having all the hearings completed by middle of December of this year to give ourselves all of 2025 to do the final report. So that is what we'll aim for, but certainly, to make sure that they are well done as we've had with our hearings so far is the most important thing. But yes, we do have to have a sense of urgency. So we've talked about that enough. So we will move on. Any announcements people want to share?
I'd like to introduce our new interns. We have one of them on the call with us today, and the other one wasn't able to make it. Should I do that now, or when we go to close?
That's an announcement.
Okay. All right. So August, I don't know if you want to give everyone a wave, but we have 2 new interns that are going to be working with us this summer. They're both students at the University of Baltimore Law School, and they both have strong backgrounds in social justice advocacy as well as public policy development. And so I'm very excited to welcome them to the commission. I think that most of their assignments are probably going to come from the work on the Reconciliation Commission, just given their legal background, as we start to put a framework to the ideas that we have behind the types of reconciliation recommendations we're going to seek. But they are here and available. So if anyone else working on other projects has thoughts about a way that a legal intern could be particularly helpful, please share that information with me, and we can work on crafting an assignment. But welcome to the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and we're excited to have you. So thanks for joining us today, August. Okay, okay, guys, just wanted to make sure you heard me. Okay, great. August, did you want to say anything?
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's good to meet everyone, and looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely. August, pleasure to have you. It's so awesome to say we have interns. Like, to my OGs, like, please understand how far we've come. Okay. We've come so far as a commission. I'm so grateful to hear that. Thank you, Commissioner Coles, for your leadership. And August, again, thank you so much for your willingness to work with this commission. I try to sell people on how important this is, which I think is a given, but this is historic what we're doing. And I'm glad to have your name as a part of this history. So welcome. And we look forward to working with you. See a couple hands. I will start with Commissioner Dupree Wilson, and then I'll come to you, Commissioner Armenti.
I'm just gonna say the name of our other intern is Chinolo Osakwe, and so hopefully she's able to join us at the next meeting, and I'll get to introduce her there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Dupree Wilson.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to make a quick announcement. Most of you know that I am the new chairperson for the Black Radio Preservation Task Force at the Library of Congress. We will be hosting our first annual virtual Black Radio Symposium on Wednesday, June the 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're doing this in conjunction with my other organization, which is the HBCU Radio Preservation Project. I will have more details at the next meeting, but I'm really hoping that each of you can attend. And again, that is June 26th. This is through the Library of Congress. This is the Black Radio Preservation Task Force. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Armenti.
And I might be kicking this to somebody else, but I believe, and I'll just say, Will, I believe that there was a Carroll County event set for June 2nd. Is that still the case? And are you aware if there is a public registration link? If so,
yeah, they have actually decided to postpone it. They felt that there was too much to get done in too short a time. They don't have a new date yet, but the good news is that Carroll County Coalition has reformulated, reconstituted itself, and they're working towards doing a soil collection, hopefully over the summer. That information will certainly be on the newsletter, everything else. But I will share it with the commission specifically when I learn more.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Will, if you have a moment, if you could share the contact info with Commissioner Armenti and myself, so that we can kind of start that process rolling,
Sure.
For the Carol and Howard,
Yeah, it's actually Jennifer Haber is kind of we were able to twist her arm to try and move that along. So she's probably the best contact. But I'll send you everything. I'll send that stuff to you today.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you all for that. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I'll just throw one in case folks didn't realize. Sunday is the 99th anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X. We're doing a little celebration out here in Monterey. We're going to be showing Spike Lee's biopic, and we've got a speaker coming in to talk about the Muslim origins of hashtag Black Lives Matter. But in case you don't have it on your calendar, get it on your calendar and do something to celebrate Malcolm X.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Nick. And my only announcement will be tomorrow, our primaries. So vote. Just vote. I don't care who you vote for, but vote. All right. I kind of care who you vote for, but just vote. But anyway, so thank you all for that. And with that, I gotta get the official language here. The open session meeting of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation, we'll bring it to a close. So let me do that officially. Thank you all. Thank you to the members of the public. I make a motion that we close the open session and pursuant to General Provisions Article Sections 3-305B13 and 4-335. We are looking to move to a closed session so that we can continue our conversation with the Hatcher Group to discuss the strategic plan for the commission. So do I have a motion to adjourn and close the meeting?
So moved.